it's good to see you again,
Yeah,
first of all.
it's good to be back.
So before I just dive right into some questions with you.
Sure.
But or for those of you who don't know, this is Gib Arnold. He is a sports psychology professional, we like to call him. And you have a new gig. You want to talk about that new gig a little bit?
Yeah, I just joined ranks with the University of Washington. I'll be their director of mental performance, working primarily with the men's basketball team. And, just helping out the athletes there at UW get bigger, stronger, and faster mentally and emotionally.
What do you know about UW?
I know they played for the national football championship last year. I coached and played in the Pac-10, so got to go up there once a year. It's a beautiful campus, unbelievable fan base, incredible athletic department, great city. I mean, there's nothing you can't love about Seattle on a sunny day. It's got to be one of the greatest cities in the world. So I'm really excited to be joining them.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you get a sunny day up there, those are
It's
hit
been
and miss
sunny
now.
so far.
We need to
They
qualify.
tell me it's sunny all the time. I don't know. We'll see.
We have to qualify that in the Northwest. Like with the sunny days,
for sure.
They're definitely they get that gray cloud for like 60 days in the spring is what gets me.
It doesn't shine in the gym anyway. That's where
exactly in the gym. Indoor practice facilities, you're probably fine.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, the sports teams have it really good. Seattle, Eugene, they've got it good because they've got these great indoor facilities that are, I think, helpful. But
yeah, there's
cool.
the fan base up there and the money that they've put into those programs. You can tell the facilities are amazing.
Yeah. So, okay, sports psychology professional. We talked a lot about last time when we were on for like a couple hours, I think.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the fight, flight, and freeze.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to give a quick refresher on that for anybody that didn't catch the first episode. And just talk about that a little bit.
You bet. So there's something that we all innately have, and it's that fight, flight, or freeze response. And that comes from our ancient ancestors. It's nothing that we actually have much control over. And in essence, it's basically back in the day when our ancestors were sitting around, however you want to make the scenario, in a village or whatever. And let's just use the saber-toothed tiger example. Comes walking into the village, and there's a group of people, and they reacted in three ways, just instinctually. There was a group that got up and just felt, they had so much cortisol running through their body that they felt like they were nervous, they were anxious, and they ran. They fled. That's your flee group. There's those that were so scared and so didn't know what was happening that they froze. They froze literally right there and just didn't know what to do, where they went and they hid. And then there was that smaller group that stood up and said, you know what? It's cold in the winter. It looks like that saber-toothed tiger's got a lot of meat on it. And they grabbed a club and they went forward and they fought. And so you have this through time. And those that fought, some of them died, some of them lived. Those that fled, some died, some lived. So those that hid died and lived. But they all crossbreeded. And so every one of us has a little bit of fight, flight, or freeze in us, all of us. Now, ideally in athletics, which one do we want? Do we want to be the one that flees when adversity hits? Do we want to freeze? No, of course not. We want to be the fighter. We want to be the one that stands up and moves forward. And so tapping into that is key. And what I do is teach techniques and ways to where we can tap into that. We can call that mental toughness. We can call that emotional strength. We can call it a lot of different things. But in essence, we're just tapping into our ancient ancestral fight and learning how to do that. And there's times actually where we have to tap into freeze too. We have to be calm. We don't want to be all pumped up. We want to sit back. And so there's different times when we need it in different parts of athleticism.
Now, is freeze, you just had mentioned that, is freeze always bad? Is it sometimes assessment? Is that why you freeze? Or is there what actually causes you to do each one of these mechanisms?
Okay.
Is it just...
So all of them are survival.
Okay.
They're all based upon survival.
Okay.
And they're based upon what self perceives the resources you have. Okay. So rarely would self ever tell, go fight when it
knows it doesn't have the resources.
It knows it doesn't have the resources to fight.
Okay.
So the ones that receive that, I'm going to fight, actually had done something in their life to be maybe the alpha male or the alpha female. They were probably a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster than the others.
Okay.
And so innately, self sent a message that, no, you can take this. You can, that's a challenge you can win. And that's huge. And there's done a lot of research on that. That's called challenge and threat state. And so we actually can get athletes and we can hook them up to different things and follow their brain. And we can see before a game starts which athletes are in challenge state, which would be fight, and which ones are in threat state. And huge differences occur in the body during these two states. For example, in challenge state, you have vasodilation, which means the blood cells get bigger. And so more blood is being pumped to the major organs, to the brain. So we have better oxygen. We become actually better athletes. In threat state, vasoconstriction occurs, and the blood gets centralized into the core. And so you get a little more sluggish. You're not quite the athlete. You don't think as quickly. Cortisol is released in threat state. Dopamine and adrenaline is released in challenge state. So when self perceives it has the resources to engage, you become a better athlete. When it perceives you don't, it protects you and it wants you, in essence, to stay in the cave, right? To not go fight, to flee or to hide. And as an athlete, obviously we wanna fight. But in life, we don't always want to fight. You know, right. That same you're going down a dark alley and there's some shady guys there, and self is telling you to flee. Yeah, that's a good decision, right? But in athletics, we probably want to be fighting more than any of those three, although we also want to be calm and, like you said, assess. Sometimes there's time when we need to tap into a different part of our brain called the parasympathetic nervous system, which isn't fight. It actually controls calmness, clarity, and confidence. Shooting a free throw, a quarterback needs to have that. A golfer needs to have that, where a linebacker might want to always be in fight. So it's different.
So you said a quarterback, they might not always want to be in fight.
No,
they need to be, because they're cerebral, right?
Like, I think you can fluctuate back and forth.
Okay, so it's not always like you're just here and you stay in this state.
No, not at all. It's your breath can change it within 12 seconds.
Gotcha.
You can go from, pumped up, short, violent breaths, would send a message to your sympathetic nervous system, which is over your fight. And so it would say, okay, there's a challenge happening. Let's give self adrenaline.
Okay.
Whereas if you take longer breaths, 12-second breaths, then that sends a message to the parasympathetic nervous system that, hey, we need to calm down. We need to slow down. And so a quarterback, sure, in the huddle, probably needs to be more in the parasympathetic nervous system. Definitely a golfer, definitely a basketball player shooting a free throw. But there's also times when naturally you're going to need, you're going to need that little more fight, that little more, for lack of a better word, that little more violent attitude versus that calm attitude.
Okay, so you said you get people, like your job is to like look before games, right? And then you help pull them out of the state, or do you put them like in a neutral state, or like what is it? What's the best state to start in?
So my job is to teach them both.
Okay.
To teach them the first thing.
And is this like a dichotomy? Like you're either here or there, or like what's the
dichotomy? No, but the ability to be able to go from high energy to relax is a huge part of sports.
Okay, high energy to relax.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Yeah. Roger Federer gave a speech recently to a graduation class, and he talked about it's an amazing speech that he gave, and he talks about how in his life he won 80% of the matches that he played in, but he only won 54% of the points, which surprised me. 54%, his entire professional career of the points.
Wow.
So that shows you how tight good and great is. Like just a few points, 54%. Yeah. So he, in essence, lost every other point. And then he says, so when I lose, I need to understand it's just a point. When I double fault, it's just a point. When I approach the net and they pass me, it's just a point. When I have an incredible backhand over-the-head smash that makes ESPN top 10, it's just a point. And every point needs to be the most important point in your life until it's done. Then it becomes the most irrelevant. So think about that. Wow. He was able to base his career on every point was the most important until it's done. And as soon as it's done, it becomes the most unimportant.
Yeah.
It becomes the most irrelevant point as soon as it's done. So to be able to go from the most important to the most irrelevant in a split second, because now you can put your focus, energy, and commitment into this point, which is the next point. And we all have, like tennis has points, but all athletes, in fact, all life is a series of points.
Right.
And being able to put all your spirit, energy, and commitment into this point and staying present is a huge part of I call them mental monsters.
Yeah.
Mental monsters are able to do that. So there's times when that focus is fight, and then as soon as it's done, you got to let it go.
So that's a very good way to state it. Sounds like just to be in the moment, and that sounds like that's what he was doing, was in the moment, and then whatever's happened, short memory, reset. You hear this all the time in sports, and I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. I heard somebody say that like depression is like dwelling on your problems. Would that be kind of the same thing as like if you were thinking about this point that just happened and you're beating yourself up over it, and then you go to the next point, and then all of a sudden you get beat again where you were thinking about that last point, right? Is that kind of the cycle that people can get into?
That is a great question, and that is it.
You
just nailed it. You nailed it. So we ruminate on, if we're ruminating on the past, then we aren't in the present. And here's the issue. Like the brain can only have one thought at a time. Now we have thousands of thoughts a day, 50 to 70,000. So the brain actually bounces from thought to thought. But we only have so much. We only have a ceiling of so much focus, energy, and commitment that we can give to a thought. So if we're ruminating on the past, then we are not fully present. Therefore, we're not giving ourselves the best chance to be our best in the moment. And you can only really be where your feet are, right? So the idea of being able to let something happen and it's gone forever, and then go immediately into the present and just be fully engaged into that moment, that play, that point, is a huge part of being a mental monster.
Gotcha.
And the greatest athletes are able to do that. They're able to go from point to point to point, from play to play to play, and let it go. Whether it's, and the beautiful thing about Roger Federer, he said, even when it's a good thing, like when I do great, it's just a point. So that ability just to stay at that high level, I call it pure performance, is right here. It's not physical, it's right here.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So the dwelling, the short memory, being able to just forget it. How do you, if somebody's in the moment, let's just say, and they, let's just say like a quarterback that throws like a crucial interception and it's likely game over. Maybe they get one more possession. Maybe they don't. At the time, it looks like game over. How is that? How would you tell that quarterback to reset, because it was just this huge moment, right? And how can you not think about what just happened?
Well, you are going to think about it.
Yeah.
You're going to have emotions.
Yeah. How do you learn without dwelling?
Okay.
That would be the question.
It's not becoming a robot. It's not having no emotions.
Right.
It's just the opposite. It's having emotion. He's going to throw that interception. And he's going to show emotion. But it's once that emotion, that initial emotion is done, then that's where we get into the mind. That's when we start understanding. I threw that interception, but I am a great quarterback, and I am a winner, and I will lead this team to victory. I made a mistake, but I am capable of winning this game. So it's where we go from there. It's the reaction from the action. And some people call it reset. I call it that. It's the reaction from the action. And where is that? Is that head down, shoulders slumped, everybody in the stands sees I'm dejected, or am I standing up and am I talking to the defense as they're coming out? Get us a stop, I'll get us a win.
Right.
Big difference.
Huge difference, right? So not dwelling on that and not thinking about it. And then the next time out, so the next time this quarterback goes out, or even let's just say it was a defensive player that missed a tackle, or they got a touchdown thrown on them or whatever. The next time out, what are you thinking? You're not thinking about don't do that again, because that would be the dwelling thought, right? If I was thinking don't do that again, that would be dwelling. But if I'm thinking about do your job, kind of like the skier with the ski line, like focus on the line, not the trees.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where that comes into play?
Sure, it becomes irrelevant.
So it becomes relevant.
Like whether you have a great attitude or a horrible attitude after the interception or the bad play, it's irrelevant because it's done. It doesn't change what's already happened. It's going to happen. Like, the future is now. Like, again, just being where your feet are.
Yeah.
And if I'm dwelling upon what just happened in the last play, I am not as good an athlete as if I'm dwelling or only focusing and I put like spirit, energy, and commitment into this play.
Right.
You'll hear me say that 100 times. Where is your spirit, energy, and commitment? Is it here? Like right now, this is the most important thing of my life.
Yeah.
Because this is where I am.
Right.
And when I'm done and I'm working with another athlete in an hour, this is
important.
irrelevant.
Right.
And guess what? The editor, it becomes their most important time of their life because they got to cut the edits, right?
Right?
But I'm now working, and you're moving on.
Yeah.
And if we can continually do that, if we can continually have everything, the moment be the most important thing and the most relevant thing until it's done, then like we stay very consistent. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Roger Federer, 80% winning rate, only winning 54% of the points. It's pretty consistent.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. So what are, let's move on to kind of some faults that you see. What are some of the most common faults you see in athletes?
So let's start with
particularly young athletes.
Okay, I'll talk about young athletes, and I'll talk about parents. Okay. One of the things we put a lot of emphasis on, and it's natural as parents, and I'm a parent of 5.
Yeah.
And I've had 3 played collegiately, and 1's high school and will play, so I'll have 4, and all 5 played sports in high school. So very much, a father of athletes.
Right.
And very involved. And one of the things mistakes we make as parents is we put emphasis on I call them irrelevant cues, things we really don't completely control and don't enhance performance. Okay? Irrelevant cue could be how much the coach plays you. An irrelevant cue, if you're especially on your football team.
Wait. Say that one more time, just so we're super clear on this.
Irrelevant cue.
Parents, are you listening up here?
An irrelevant cue is something that you cannot control that does not enhance performance. And if you put spirit, energy, and commitment into an irrelevant cue, you are not enhancing your performance. In fact, you're going the opposite because you only have a certain limit of spirit, energy, and commitment. So
talking to your kid about playing time is one of the worst things you could probably do to them instead of, hey, let's talk about how you can get on the field by training.
100%.
Okay.
Because what does that do? It takes their spirit, energy, and commitment, it puts it on the topic of not playing.
Yep.
It puts it onto an irrelevant cue that they don't control, a coach's decision. Okay? A wide receiver may get only 3 passes thrown, and the parents don't talk about the 3 passes. They talk about the other that he should have gotten it thrown to. That's an irrelevant cue.
Yeah.
You're putting spirit, energy, and commitment to something that you do not control that does not enhance your child's in performance. Now, a parent that puts spirit, energy, and commitment on what you do control. And what do you control? 100%. Your attitude, your effort, your teammanship, your coachability, your preparation. You control that 100%. When a parent comes off, if the first thing they say is talk about stats, it's a mistake. Then the kid relates to stats, to parent approval, and you can't get enough stats to fulfill that.
Yeah.
But the first thing the parent says is, I loved watching you play. Gosh, it's fun to watch you play. Loved your effort.
Yeah.
Great job. You can talk about stats later. They're going to come up.
Yeah.
It's going to come up. But make sure the first thing you say is that you loved watching them play. I love watching you play. What a great night. Win or lose. Say that first. You're going to get to the highlights.
We'll go Asian parent for a second, even if they're like, hey, you suck and you're slow, but hey, good job.
Start with good job. Start with good job. Start with good job. Just send the initial message that, I am proud of who you are. Not what you did, of just who you are.
I always tell a funny story because my mom, when I was growing up, I have this story where I was like selected to, be the starter in this all-star game, and her first reaction was, "You? Like they picked you?" I was like, "What?"
Yes,
this is a great moment.
Okay. No, believe me, I see it all the time.
I see these comedy roles, and one of them was, Asian parents are like, even though you suck, even though you're slow, you're gonna have a great game.
Yeah, that's the pump up speech.
That's the pump up speech that you get. I got you. Okay.
Probably the same speech he or she got from their parents.
Right.
It's these things are passed down.
Yeah. In general, should the parents be should they be giving pregame speeches? Should they not? Like, depending on, familiarity, what should the subject matter be before game?
Okay, again, let's stick to the very simple part. Relevant cues are things you can control that enhance performance. Talk about relevant cues. Any parent can talk about attitude. Any parent can talk about playing hard. Any parent can talk about dedication and being a good teammate. You can talk about those things. Be that guy. Be that guy. And as a parent, now, commitment, dedication, that stuff happens before the game. And you do control that as well. So if you're, hey, you know what, Johnny, let's get up early. Let's get up, you and I, let's go get up and go to 24-hour fitness or wherever and get a workout in. Like, that's something you can do.
Yeah.
And that's not game related, but it's performance related over time.
Yeah.
And just supporting and being there, you can control those things. Once the game starts, things happen, and coaches take control.
Yeah, the kid shouldn't be looking at you, right, as the parent during the game, right? I've read that before. Something like if your kid, especially in youth sports, is looking at you, they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. They should be looking at their coach, right? Yeah. For affirmation during the games and
for sure. Yeah. Now understand, a parent also, especially with the younger kids, if they're looking at you, you can also do positives with that. You're smiling, you're happy, you're cheering. Of course, the kid's going to look back at mom or dad. So if they're looking at you, then it should be a positive thing, not like I'm letting my parents down type of feeling.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Now, what about for the kids? So we talked to some of those mistakes, parent related. What do you see like for young athletes? Are they the same thing? They're just focused on non-important stuff, or?
A lot of times it's very easy to blame others. And this is from youth all the way up to professional players. It's not my fault. It's coach, teammate situation. There's a part of accountability that's really important to become elite.
Yeah.
You've got to look at yourself and understand, am I expecting results from work I have not done? And so the work, you got to do the work before you get to work. The game is the work, but you got to do the work before you get to the game. And there's a lot of athletes that think that the results should come from, again, work that hasn't been completed. And that's the early morning. That's the mental monster mornings I talk about. That's between 4 and 9 a.m. of the day when most people are sleeping. The times from 9 to 5 when teams are practicing and kids are in school, that's average.
Yeah.
If you perform, if you go to practice, you do all those things, by definition, you're just average.
Right.
The 4 to 9 is where players are made.
Yep.
The 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 is when teams are made. And then the 6 from 10, I call it free time, family, friends, and fun. That's the balance. That's where you balance your life out.
Yeah.
You have to do homework. You have to do things like that. But that's free. You're in charge of that. Even the young athlete, the afternoons after practice is pretty much in charge of that time. What are you doing then? Are you watching TV? Are you on the internet? Are you on TikTok for 3 hours? Well,
yeah, you're average then.
Yeah,
kind of your average. You should be doing your homework, prep, like taking care of all the things, right? That's kind of your prep time.
So when the game time comes, and if you look back and you've consistently done all these things, then you can point to yourself and you can feel good about yourself. Did the best I could. I accomplished everything, and it's the rewards are on me. And when people understand, when athletes really start to believe, and this is really important, that I and I alone am responsible for the spirit, energy, and commitment I bring to the room, they change. Because then it all goes back to me. And if I'm in charge, that's a beautiful thing. I want to be in charge.
Right.
Don't you?
Yeah.
And if you're in charge and self believes you're in charge, your performance will start rising because you'll be in challenge state. You'll get the good stuff.
Because your resource bag is getting bigger, right? Yeah. You trust that. So that goes back to that. Mm-hmm. The more we practice, those are the deposits essentially in the resource bag for when we
always putting them in.
Gotcha.
Constantly putting them in. And not just physically.
Yeah.
Most athletes think that's a physical thing. It's mentally, emotionally, and physically.
So I'm watching film.
Soul.
So I watch film.
Mental.
Boom. Deposit.
Put it in.
Right in the bag. I'm calling coach or FaceTiming coach, and we're going through plays or whatever. That's a boom. That's a positive, right? Staying after practice, running some extra routes, doing some sprints, those sorts of things, right? Those are
physical.
Gotcha.
Now you just put more deposits in.
Gotcha.
Things like meditation.
Okay.
Things like I am statements. things like
recovery.
Yeah,
like
recovery.
Ice baths and
exactly.
Like those things. Okay.
All those things are resources that go into that resource bag that we carry to every game.
Gotcha.
And we're going to have to reach in and reach in and reach in and reach in. Now, sometimes you're playing a lesser opponent who doesn't have the resources you have, resource bag you have. You can just show up and beat them. But the higher we go, that bag, everybody has that bag.
I feel like you can almost learn more when you're playing a lesser opponent because you could teach yourself not to play down to that level.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself to dominate, a game and perform. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of what I see is kids will play down to it's super common for really good teams to play down to that level, right? And that leads me kind of to another question so there was in high school football this last weekend, there were 4 major upsets around the country. Folsom was one of them, lost a game. They were ranked 23rd. You had Centennial ranked 16, and I think they got beat by 2 touchdowns. You had a team in Florida, Chaminade, I think they got beat. And then the biggest upset probably was the Corner Canyon, Utah team that had just beaten IMG the week before, ended up losing to, I think, an in-state team, which hadn't happened in several years.
But also a really good team.
Yeah, but so all of a sudden, is it I can't think that because all 4 of those teams had a lot of pub going in, national pub going in. Do you think that's a unique challenge? Do you think the teams sit back and they just read their own press clippings? What do you tell the kids when there's so much fanfare around them, and how do they stay locked in?
Okay, there's 2 ways to learn. There's learn from loss, which is actually a lot easier than learning from winning. And so to learn from loss, you have the attention of your team, and you're a little bit humbled.
Okay.
And so you realize, I don't want to feel this again. So you're more focused for the next game. And that's why when you're playing a team that coming off a loss, especially if you beat them the last time, if you're playing them a second time, you're at a huge disadvantage. We see it in the playoffs at the highest level.
Yeah.
Like the adjustments are easier in a loss. And that's good. You need to learn from loss.
Yeah, and
right?
that hunger is there.
Yeah, never lose, only learn, right?
Yeah.
It's a great statement. But learning from winning is really hard. It takes a really mindset that is even stronger than learning from loss. The younger you go down that chain, the more it's going to be hard. Kids will listen to what parents tell them. They will listen to what the press clips say. They will think that they are invincible and unbeatable. And by nature, that edge kind of comes off. Maybe we don't quite practice quite as hard as when we were climbing the ladder to get there.
Right.
And so over time, someone can catch up with you, and on any given night can knock you off. And so upsets are always going to happen. And we see in college football, we saw Florida State get beat that first, and we'll see it next week, and we'll see it the following week, and we'll see it the following week, because that's a tough thing to do. Now, the great teams, not just well coached, but with players that are mentally tough.
Yeah.
Like they stay really, really level.
Yeah.
And man, those are the tough. You hate running into those teams that are just not a lot of ups and downs.
Like a Kirby Smart coach team, I would say, is kind of right.
Exactly. Saban was the master.
Right.
Of it. Yeah. And you run into a Novak Djokovic in tennis. You run into a Kobe. Those guys never had off nights. They were always locked in.
Yeah. Kobe was your ultimate challenge state. When I think of challenge state, I kind of think of him, and I think of Jordan. Those guys just
Jordan, Kobe. I think Tiger. Early years.
Tiger earlier is when the pressure was on, they just got better.
Yeah.
And then you think of some other players, that are like were really good all the way until crunch time, and then all of a sudden they got a little bit worse. So those are the players that went from challenge state, and then the game's on the line all of a sudden, and then they go the opposite way.
Yeah. And that's part of the success cycle, we call it. Success breeds confidence. Confidence breeds enhanced performance. Enhanced performance breeds success. So it's this beautiful cycle we get in as an athlete. But if we don't have success, if we miss our first couple of shots, if we hit it into the lake, if we throw an interception, we're not in that success cycle anymore. We got to get back in.
Yeah.
So it goes back to controlling what we can control. What do we control and what do we define as success? Our spirit, our attitude, our commitment, all these things we can control. And that will get us right back into that success cycle, giving us more confidence, increasing our performance, giving us more success. So, that's a constant thing that athletes need to work on. They need to understand that there's going to be loss. There's going to be times where we don't mess up. We can't dwell on it. That's what we talked about from the start. It's done. It's irrelevant. This play, where my feet are.
It's kind of, that's an interesting statement, because sometimes I feel like the message is results are all that matters. And other times it's and I've heard, a couple coaches say this now, that let's not confuse results with execution, because you can not execute and still have a good result. It happens all the time in sports, right? So like that's, we have like these kind of two conflicting things. Like at the end of the day, results obviously matter in wins and losses, right?
Sure.
But like it can also be that kind of dangerous thing, I think, when you talk about maybe two teams that played, and it was like a really good game, and the ball just, they happen to, fall one way or another. Maybe a fumble, happens, and it takes a funny bounce, or, you know what I mean? And then the next time that team that lost all of a sudden just blows that team out the next time they play. Like, what do you think about those two conflicting ideas, I guess, or statements?
Well, the beautiful thing about sports is we do keep score.
Yeah.
And so anybody involved in sports that says it's just a game either haven't really played or doesn't appreciate it for what it is.
Maybe I didn't win a lot.
Yeah. And you know what? Losing is a huge part of growth.
Right.
So people who are like, we shouldn't keep score. No, we're taking away a beautiful part of growth. Like, losing is a wonderful thing to grow from. It's a wonderful way to learn. It's a wonderful thing to experience, because like, losing normally brings on change. And so the idea that like we shouldn't keep score or that we shouldn't emphasize winning, it's unrealistic. Of course we should emphasize winning. Now, John Wooden, my father coached with John Wooden. Like, I was raised in a Wooden family. Said we never talked about winning or losing. Like, success is the peace of mind of knowing you did the very best with the God-given gifts you've been given. That was his definition of success. We also won 10 national championships. John Wooden cared a whole lot about winning, right? But he just approached it in a way that allowed his teams to win without saying, we're going to win. Right. They were just prepared. So the idea of, the dichotomy between winning and execution and all those different things, it does come down to execution. Yeah. And there are times when preparation is enough. When you've done your preparation and you are in, as we talked about, challenge state, you will play your best. But you might be playing against another team who also prepared.
Right.
And they're also in challenge state, and maybe they're a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster, or maybe they've got a little more genetics behind them, or maybe they got the lucky bounce. So athletes know when they've done what they need to do. Yeah. I think for the most part, you sleep well when you know that you've put everything into it. And you probably don't sleep very well when you know you're cheating the system. And the system is discipline-based and production-based.
Like cheating the system, like missing workouts, not showing up to film. Yeah. Maybe being on the internet instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, preparing for the game or something, watching TikTok or whatever, those things. All
those things produce cockiness, not confidence.
Yeah.
You cannot fool self. If you're not putting the work in and you're talking a big game, it's cocky.
Yeah.
If you're putting the work in and you're talking a big game, that's confidence, because you know you did what you're supposed to do. You know it. You know it. Novak Djokovic said, I believe with every cell in my body that I am the best. Can you imagine that? He believes with it, and you know why? Because he is. And he's done what it takes to be the best. Like, he dreamt of winning Wimbledon, being the number one player when he was 8 years old. And when he won, there's a great speech when he won the gold medal. He talked about having this vision at 8 years old, and I believed in myself, and I created my own destiny. And what a great statement that is, that he believed at 8, and he created his own destiny. And I think I'm a big believer when goats talk, we should listen, no matter what sport or part of the world they're in. Yeah. So here's Djokovic talking about when he was 8 years old, he believed in every cell of his body that he would be the number one player in the world. And here he is, the number one player in the world. And he is teaching us you can create your own destiny. Now we take someone from another GOAT, Mahatma Gandhi, right? I don't know if he's ever hooped in his life. No, if he's played, probably not. But also a GOAT in the spiritual realm, right? And he says, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So now you got Mahatma saying, it starts with your beliefs, and that's how you control your destiny. And you got Novak Djokovic, also a GOAT, saying, I believe in myself, believe in yourself, and you can create your own destiny. I think we should listen.
Right.
Like there's something there about believing in oneself to create one's destiny.
Yeah. Do you love your job?
Love it. You kidding me? I love it.
So why do you love your job? I mean,
I love it because I coached. I coached for 25 years. I coached in college. I was in the NBA for 5. I never thought I'd find anything more fulfilling than playing until I became a coach. And then I coach. I thought I'd never find anything more fulfilling than coaching until I became on this side this side, because I believe what's being taught, what I have the opportunity to teach, makes you a better athlete, but more so it makes you your best self. And I believe in that. I believe there is a best self. I believe there is a best. I believe we can obtain that. And I think it comes by training the mind, body, and soul. And majority of my life, I only thought it was body. I thought it was just bigger, stronger, faster. And when I became aware of this and it started to consume me and it became a passion, I just love it. I think the mind is incredible. I believe greatness is in store, and I think nobody wakes up to be mediocre. I think we all want to be great, and I think we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you have to get to Seattle, and but I want the audience to be able to get a hold of you if they want to work with you. How does that, how do they get a hold of you?
Probably the best would be DM me through my Instagram, Coach Gib Mindbodysoul.
Okay, we'll put these down in we'll put them in the description.
Yeah, Coach Gib Mindbodysoul. People have reached out and talked to me on there. I've actually picked up a couple clients on that. I throw something up there every once in a while. I'm not big on that, but I check it all the time. Yeah. I'll put on little motivational things or things that I like. Those two, the talk from Federer, the talk from Novak Djokovic are both on there. I thought they were really, really good things. So that's probably the best way to reach me.
To reach you, okay. And I know you're really busy now with the Washington job and everything, and so do you have room for new clients?
So I still have a part of my deal with Washington. I still have my private practice.
Okay.
To some extent. Yeah. I'm actually lessening that quite a bit as I go further. I'm just starting with Washington. So in the process, I still do that. So if anybody reaches out, whoever reaches out, even if you just got a question, I always return. Give me, I'll as soon as I see it, within 24 hours, I'll return. Yeah. And whether it's just like, hey, here's a little advice, or here's a book, or here's someone you could see in your area, I'd be more than happy to do that.
You're probably going to get a flood of text messages from me. All right. I'm really like, how do I deal with this? I've got a lot of emotion right now.
Yeah, I feel it. I'm with you. It's a good thing. It's how you react from that emotion, right? Not the action of the emotion, how you react.
The 24-hour rule is definitely intact right now. So I'm just like...
And sometimes that needs to be pushed to 48.
Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, currently it is right now.
See, that's good parenting. Good job.
So, Gib Arnold, thank you so much for joining us. I know we can have you in again.
Always.
We'll check in with you.
Up here. I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll check in with you maybe mid-season basketball or something like that, and just see how everything's going.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Thanks, Josh.